What's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to the Tavern with no name. Oh wait, that's the wrong video. Woo. So what I wanted to do in this video was theory craft on other features or systems that perhaps could be put in place or are going to put in place, and I just don't know it yet, in order to drive more traffic into taverns for longer periods of time or just repetitively. You know, I don't necessarily want people to feel like they have to go to a tavern for an hour, but if they go for 10 or 15 minutes, a couple times a session they're playing, or they go to the tavern, you know, twice every 8-hour session they play, 4 or 5 days a week, you know, people coming and going, making the tavern feel more alive. These are just some systems I thought of. There's only two, but I think they're cool talking points, and I really wanted to put them out there on YouTube so that people could kind of watch it and give me feedback on their ideas and their thoughts. We had some feedback on stream. We also, the idea for this video came particularly or specifically from one viewer who had kind of brought it up in another question. So I really wanted to make a quick video about it. The first idea was a bounty board. So we know that bounties exist in Intrepid Studios' Ashes of Creation. We also know that players will be able to accept the bounties. I even believe they'll be the ones that are able to place the bounties. Now, I think that the corruption system, things like that, I think it's based out of, I feel like I should have double-checked this, but I feel like it's based out of whatever the religious building is, you know, the church or what have you, the parsonage. Whatever it is, I think that's where it's based out of. But I theorize, or I propose the idea of a bounty board as an unlockable for taverns. Whether it's unlocked by gather X amount of resources, or be a tavern for this amount of time and achieve these 4 things, and you unlock the ability to put a bounty board in your tavern. And the bounty board almost literally just being a board that has all the bounties on it. You know, if I'm in the tavern for something else, a food buff or tavern games or a role play session, if you will, I'm able to go to this board and see the current bounties. Maybe at these boards you could even place the bounties. And the reason why I like it that way is because it gives players another reason to go to a tavern on a semi-regular basis. It gives people a reason to frequent said establishment for longer periods of time. So go on a regular basis, and then while they're there, maybe stay a little bit longer. Or I guess it'd be more like an added value for spending time in the tavern. And what I mean by that is you were just going for a food buff, but, you know, conveniently enough, now that I'm here, I'll just go ahead and check the bounty board while I'm here. Or conveniently enough, I just wanted to come play parlor games with a friend. Hey, let's check the bounty board real quick. Maybe after we play a couple games and there's a bounty up there we think we can do, let's go try to grab it. And just adding value to the time spent in these establishments, I think, will make people, A, not shy away from being in taverns. B, it will encourage people to go to taverns more, I think. At least I theorize it would. And I think it would also just add a little extra something as a tavern owner. Now, you could also incentivize tavern owners to build the boards by, if a bounty is placed in your establishment, perhaps you get a percentage of the listing fee. You know, if somebody lists, I'm just using superfluous numbers because I don't know how to work, but I list a 10 gold bounty for this guy. Well, it cost them 11 to list it, and the 1 gold fee goes to the owner. Or maybe 75% of the fee goes to the owner and the other 25% is burnt, or something like that. So I just think it would be a neat way to do it. As another way to, as I said, maybe bring people in and keep them there a little bit. Now the second one is a much more in-depth and complicated idea that I don't know if it is even possible to do it this way. So a lot of discourse that I've seen in Discords and on Twitter, YouTube comments all over the Ashes of Creation ecosystem is looking for group. You know, I know it's a hot button topic, and I'm not approaching this just as a clickbait title or anything like that. I'm approaching it from a point of view where perhaps you could compromise to an extent while adding a feature to the game. Sorry, I'm trying to think best how to verbalize the idea in a much more clear and concise way. What I have written down makes sense to me, but sometimes when I verbalize it, it might not make sense to anybody else. So I'm just trying to process it while I'm talking. So the thought was, similar to the bounty board, have this feature unlockable. Have this feature something that a tavern owner has to work towards, has to unlock, and that it's an achievement for a tavern to have unlocked. I was calling it like a quest board. I know I said board for bounty board and everything, but like a quest board or a quest hub of some sorts. Essentially an interface of some sorts that looks cool in the tavern. So let's call it a quest board. And when you interact with it, within your specific node's influence, the node in which the tavern's freehold is a part of, you can create a looking for group, like an ad on the board of, hey, I'm looking for 3 more people to do this dungeon or quest or just explore or go after a bounty or caravan or whatever. And the only people who can see the board or interact with the request isn't in a looking for group chat. It's at another board that is in the zone of influence. So the only way to access the board is to be in a tavern, one that has unlocked the feature. Pardon me. And if it's not just at that single one, the only network really are other taverns in the freeholds in the node's zone of influence. Now, this could totally be a shitty idea, but just hear me out. I tend to lean towards the side that looking for group really did kind of cannibalize the social aspect of popular games. Obviously, most notably of which is World of Warcraft. Looking for group, looking for raid. However, I also understand the utility of making it slightly easier for, I guess casual would be the best word, people who don't really have the large crew that rolls deep all hours of the day to run dungeons and run group content with. Yes, I don't want to take away from the social aspect of, hey, you look like a ranger, I'm a tank, maybe we should get together and hang out. You know what, now I've got an acquaintance, we dungeon a couple times together or do some stuff a couple times together. Hey, now we're more than acquaintances, now I would consider us almost friends, if you will. And then there were friends and now we have a friendship and things like that. Might span other games. Like, I don't want to take away that experience. That's how I've met a lot of great people that I'm still in contact with and are still friends with. However, looking at what I would say is a small amount of positives that can bring, there are quite a few negatives. So I think by making it something that isn't a tavern, a very socially heavy what am I trying to say? A very large social experience. To our knowledge, it'll be a very large social experience. So first you have to go into the tavern. Boom, you're already in a big social setting. Then you have to go interact with this thing. While you're there are other options to interact with, not just this group finder of sorts, but maybe the bounty board's there, if that's a thing. You're getting your food buffs, you're playing parlor games, there's voice chat music going. You know, it's a kind of a totally different experience. Like, you insert yourself into a social atmosphere in order to use this tool that is inherently, like, what am I trying to say? It inherently hinders the social experience. That might be a little harsh, but you get what I'm saying. And then, so it only activates inside of the node zone of influence. That way I can't make a group with somebody 4 nodes away, because then that makes the world smaller. You know, and then it's like, oh yeah, you're in my group, but now I have to wait 40 minutes for you to walk your ass across the map. Because we know how big the map is and travel times. You know, then that, honestly, that right there kills it for me. But if I know that you're like, oh yeah, I'm actually in let's just use the ones that are on the screen. Yeah, I'm using it at the Wandering Soul Outfitter, even though that's most likely not a tavern. We're going to say it's a tavern. Bounty board. Oh, well, I'm at the Vera Inn Tavern on the other side of the node. Okay, well, hey, let's meet over here, and then we can go on our quest together. You know, I think that would be really neat as a form of communication. And, you know, I know you can't really explain it away if you're trying to do immersion, like, how would you post a job here, and then suddenly it appears over there? There's fucking magic and dragons. Calm your ass down. So you can give me a little bit on this. So I think having that, you're still in a small network. Still has to be a tavern to use it or post on it or whatever. And it still has to be in your node zone of influence, a freehold. And it only applies to quests, dungeons, general exploring, things like that, that once again are inside of your node's zone of influence. So if you want to do a dungeon and find a group, but it's in a different node's zone of influence, well, now I'm going to have to travel to that node. And not just to that node, now I have to travel to one of the node's cities. And inside of one of their cities, I have to find a tavern that has it unlocked. Now, while yes, that is some hoops to jump through, I think that as an alternative to not having it at all, or even the alternative of just having it full balls to the wall, just like WoW, I feel like this is a happy medium. And I feel like this idea, or this idea, I guess I was trying to come up with a fancy fucking word, but this idea still fits and could be a very unique solution that is very unique to Ashes of Creation. I don't think it hinders upon their general idea for the game, the direction for the game that they want to go from a social aspect and from a player interface aspect, like how the player interfaces with the world. Is that right? Maybe. Or experiences the world or interacts with it. I don't think it gets in the way of that. I think it kind of accentuates that idea. Now, I know there will be people who are scoff at the idea and just say it's dumb. Man, honestly, it could be. I'm not that offended. Like, if you're just like, that shit dumb. Like, all right, word, you might be right. I don't fucking know. It's just, as I talked it out a couple different times and I've kind of theorized it and developed the thought on it, the more I thought, like, man, that could actually be a really cool mechanic. You know, and then myself, as somebody who wants to run a tavern pretty hardcore, I think it would be a fun way to play my character. I go into it in different videos about how I like want an overarching theme for my character, and they are this, and it helps me make in-game decisions, and it's like roleplay heavy, and that's me. I'm weird. I'm a unique niche person, right? Niche person? Is it niche? Is it niche? Man, I don't know. But I am that person, right? I don't expect other people to mold or change the way that they interact with the world in the game by what I like to do. You know, I'm going to do me, you do you. Right? So, this concept, I think, would assist everybody. For me as a tavern owner, if I could unlock this board, I got more people coming into my tavern, which is fucking dope. You know, if there's a fee for using the board, it creates a way to burn more currency, which is always a big thing. You know, how do you keep the currency amount down, especially in a world like this where you have scarcities and resources being traveled back and trading and caravans and player-owned economy, and just having a way for money to disappear from the system is kind of a good way to battle inflation. So let's say I'm just using superfluous numbers again. It's half a gold, whatever that is, to list a group. Well, half of that half a gold goes to the tavern and the other half gets burnt, or something to that effect. And maybe the tavern has to pay dues on being part of the Looking for Group network. Like, you could really go deep on it to make it really ingrained in the game. I'm not looking to go that far. I was just wanting to present this idea to you so that we could have a conversation about it. And it's easier for me to script it out. I do like bullet points in order to create a video of a more constructed conversation about the Looking for Groups idea, theory, concept of the Looking for Group board, the adventure board, or whatever you want to call it, the bounty board. You know, I even had the idea, I think I did in one of my role-playing skits, about like a Deadpool from the movie, right? But it's like, okay, you guys can sign up for it at this tavern, and you bet money, and it goes into a pot. And at the end of a season in Ashes of Creation, which may be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, at the end of the season, who's ever claimed the most bounties gets the pool. You know, you could incorporate fun things like that into the taverns, drawing people into the tavern more frequently, as well as creating this hub where when you walk into a tavern, it's not just, all right, I got to walk in here. Okay, I got to get my food buff. Okay, let's leave. Now it's an experience. It's like the difference between walking into a store and walking into the same store in a mall. Now, I get it. Most people don't like it. There's too many people, whatever. I get you. But you turn a shopping trip into an experience. Kind of be the same way with the tavern. Instead of it just being a hassle or a time-consuming shit show of like, I have to load into this guy's tavern, listen to his shitty music, eat the food for my food buff, and leave. Instead of that, now you've created an experience where you go into the tavern and you could check the bounty board, or you could check the bounty board. You could look at the looking for group, see if you fit in any of those, or list one yourself. You could play the parlor games. You could get your food buff, listen to the music, blah, blah, blah. Do all those things and then leave. You know, now it feels like what I'm assuming you would have to load into a tavern, I would assume. Maybe not. Intrepid's amazing, so they might be able to change that. But you load in, you do your thing, and then you load out. I don't know. It just feels like the more value we add to the tavern experience, the more likely it is that people will go to it, enjoy it, use it repetitively, and stay for longer. So there are other obvious things that we could theorize in Theorycraft, like could there be like a rested XP kind of deal? Maybe it doesn't directly affect XP, but maybe it affects something else on your character the longer you stay in a tavern, because the idea is that you're resting or relaxing, and maybe it's a stacking thing. Every 30 or 40 minutes it goes up by 1%, or every 15 minutes it goes up by 0.5% extra XYZ, and it caps at whatever. You know, you could incorporate things to bring people into them. Now, do I expect any of this? Hell no. Do I think the most interesting thing out of everything I said is the looking for group board? I do. And Intrepid Studios has already gone deep on a lot of systems. They've already gone, really, for me, above my expectations tremendously. Would I be upset if they don't do these? Not at all. They're already providing, and they are on pace or directed towards creating a game that exceeds my expectations in many ways. I feel like we're spoiled with them dedicating the time they have to the features that they've chosen. And instead of our expectations being here and the game studio either coming in at them or above them and being excited, they do that, and then we shoot our expectations up to here. Now, while that could be healthy in certain situations, what it does for me now is just I see people fucking complaining about everything. Literally in the last live stream, I saw them take down a tree. I loved the audio engineering. The way it fell, yeah, I could use a little work on like some of the physics, but they put physics and it looked great. Yeah, it's not even Alpha 2 yet, but and people were complaining that, oh, why doesn't the tree do damage? Oh, well, maybe I should be able to direct the direction of the tree. Oh, why can't I pick those mushrooms? Oh, why do those rocks look so flat? Oh man, that tree bark looks the same as that tree bark. You're just copy and pasting trees. Guys, shut up. Like, just be happy that they put the sound engineering work in. That they put the work in on it at all. You're absolutely entitled to your opinion. I will never tell you not to have your opinion. But put some context around your opinion. Don't just get greedy because they're already shooting so high. Don't just be negative because you've been disappointed so much. I'm not even telling you to be positive if you're a negative person. Just throw some context on your comment before you just spout out the mouth with some dumb shit. Anywho, let me know what you think about the ideas I proposed for a tavern. Do you even care about taverns? Do you think drawing people into taverns more frequently and getting them to stay there just a little bit longer is a good idea? Adding value to the time spent in these taverns. Could it be a good idea? Let me know what you think about the specific systems I talked about, from the looking for group board and the bounty board, maybe even that Deadpool I just touched on. You know, things like that. Let me know, and once again, I truly appreciate you guys coming to check me out, watching the video, and thanks for stopping by.